Alrighty, people, we are now live on just about every platform. We are on my Twitter, the Fireside Knicks YouTube, and of course, the Fireside Knicks Instagram, as we are here today to preview the Knicks versus Pacers game tonight. And of course, it's going to be a little different. Jalen Brunson is probably not going to play in this game. He is listed as doubtful for right ankle injury management as well as a neck strain. So don't expect him to suit up tonight. I think it's a good idea, though, for him to sit and kind of just get some rest. I think this is the perfect game to do that against the Pacers team that quite frankly is missing a lot of guys as well. They have practically their entire rotation listed as questionable right now, and Pascal Siakam is doubtful, so he likely will not be suiting up tonight either. So with that being said, the Knicks need to take advantage, take care of business, and just get the job done against the Pacers tonight. I think that is the ultimate goal right there. I think that's very important for them to do. And yeah, that's what I'm really expecting tonight out of this group. And, we're going to take also another look here at the injury report tonight because it's not just Jalen Brunson that is out tonight. We also see Deuce McBride obviously is still out with that core muscle surgery. Jalen Brunson, as I just said in the opening, is doubtful for injury management. And Mitchell Robinson was added to the injury report this morning with back tightness. So that is not ideal as well, missing a couple guys right there. I mean, we won't possibly won't have Mitchell Robinson. We already know we likely will not have Jalen Brunson either. So this is a game where the rest of the guys need to step up. This is a game where I'm going to be really looking for guys like Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and of course Carl Anthony Towns to really step up and really deliver and make a lot of big plays happen tonight. Again, the Knicks are 15.5 point favorites against a decimated Pacers team, and we just saw this group on Sunday really struggle against a Warriors team that basically was the Santa Cruz Warriors. So the Knicks need to obviously start this game out strong, as I mentioned in yesterday's stream. They cannot afford to have yet another slow start. They have to just get going off rip. They have to have a very strong start, make things happen right away, and just build a huge lead. It's obviously going to be tough without Brunson. That is literally your offensive engine right there that you're going to be without. But it's not. It should not be impossible. You should still be able to beat the Pacers by quite a lot of points, even without Jalen Brunson out on the floor tonight. And as far as other things are concerned with this team, this is the part of the schedule that's super super easy. I mean, we're already 3 games into that, but after this game they have Brooklyn after this, and then they have like the Pelicans up there as well, and I think they have Brooklyn again. This is a very easy stretch. This is a stretch where the Knicks need to really take advantage and possibly go for that second seed because I do think it is very much within reach and very much possible to get. I think this is their opportunity to do exactly that. And I do also want to show you guys real quick the Pacers injury report, and this is from Underdog NBA on Twitter. Look at this. If you guys can see this, I know for the Instagram people it might be a little hard to read, but basically their entire rotation is questionable in some capacity. We see Andrew Nemhard, questionable, Aaron Nesmith, questionable, Obi Toppin, Ivica Zubats, TJ McConnell, Ben Shepherd, all questionable, Quentin Jackson, questionable, Micah Potter, questionable, all these guys, questionable. And then obviously on the bottom, Pascal Siakam is doubtful. So with that being said, all of those guys being, possibly out or, questionable, whatever it is, the fact that they're dealing with injuries at all, I mean, injuries, we know the team is kind of tanking a little bit, but still, the fact that the Pacers might be that shorthanded, even with the Knicks possibly being without Brunson and possibly Mitchell Robinson as well, there's no reason that the Knicks should have a trouble winning this game. They really should not. I think this game, though, I really want to see Mikal Bridges especially really kind of get going. We know he's been really struggling of late. We know his offense has just not been there. This would be the perfect opportunity for Bridges to really kind of mold into himself and kind of get some rhythm going. He's going to get more touches probably if Brunson in fact does not play. So this is the chance for Bridges to really finally do something impactful on the offensive side of the ball. Now, as far as who's going to start for Brunson, me personally, I'm okay if they start Tyler Kolek. And the reason I'm going to say that is because Tyler Kolek has played really well with the starters in spurts this year. It's a very small sample size, but he's played well with those starters, right? And also, I think having him start and having Alvarado continue to come off the bench would allow Alvarado to still kind of be like that spark plug off the bench, kind of like that little pest that you want in the second unit. So I think starting Kolek would be the better choice just because you would still be able to have that depth, maintained. And also because, like I just mentioned, the synergy that Kolek has with the starters. And the fact that Kolek is also more of a playmaker and a good passer, he can get the other guys going. We can get a rhythm out of, Bridges or Ananobi or Towns, guys that need to really get going in time for the postseason because, again, the playoffs are right around the corner. So we need to be able to get off to a really good start here in this game, and we need to really just keep on stacking up wins as the playoffs come around because you want to enter the postseason on a high note. You really don't want to go into the playoffs struggling or having a bunch of issues that they currently have, like their first quarter trouble, as we talked about yesterday. That can't continue anymore. It has to end now. They have to be able to get on a strong start here tonight against a really bad Pacers team, a team that's dealing with a lot of injuries, granted, but still a team that has 15 wins on the season this year. The Knicks have already lost a game to the Pacers this year at the Garden, so you cannot afford to lose to them again at the Garden tonight. You need to come out with a win despite who you got on the floor, even if that means Jalen Brunson, in fact, doesn't play or Mitchell Robinson. Doesn't matter. You have to still come out with a win. You have to come out strong and you got to play to your strengths. It's really that simple. Again, I just want to see good games out of Bridges and the rest of the guys, really. I expect Jordan Clarkson to get a lot of minutes tonight as well with Jalen Brunson out, just to kind of look for more offense. Maybe Landry Shamet gets more minutes. Maybe even Shamet gets the start. I don't really know who's going to start at point guard tonight. I expect it to be probably one of Alvarado or Kolek, but we never know. Mike Brown likes to kind of mix things up and is usually a little quiet about those types of moves. So we will see what happens with that stuff. But kind of just pivoting over to really what's ahead for this team. We talked about it yesterday, but I'm going to talk about it more again. Um, the slow starts is something that's super concerning. So it's something that we need to really address, and it's something. And for a lot of people who have been saying that, oh, it shouldn't be a big deal because they're still winning the games. Yeah, in part you're right because they are winning the games, and ultimately that is what matters. But at the same time, you cannot keep going on these slow starts because the good teams are not going to let you get away with that. The Detroit Pistons aren't going to let you get away with going down by 20 before the first half is over. And along with other good teams in the East, the Celtics aren't going to let you get away with that. Well, Celtics, I guess, let us get away with that twice last year, but still, it won't. You can't guarantee it to happen again. And those teams out west as well. If you end up making the NBA Finals this year, same thing. They're not going to let you get away with that kind of stuff. So if the Knicks can start out strong, tonight would be a great start for this because, again, you're without Brunson, you're without your offensive engine. This is the time for the other guys to really get going because Brunson's got it going lately. He scored 30 points in the last game and he scored 28 and 29 in 2 games before that. So he's got it going lately. It's the rest of the guys that really haven't been going lately. And against the Warriors on Sunday, Brunson was pretty much the only guy, maybe outside of Clarkson, who really had anything going for him. I mean, Bridges was, awful once again. OG was, okay. He wasn't terrible. Karl-Anthony Towns was pretty decent as well in the second half, but um, Jalen Brunson was kind of the only guy from start to finish who really had things going. So I want to see that happen tonight with some of the other guys. I want to see Bridges have a consistent game from start to finish, or Cat from start to finish. I want to see that. I don't want to see them go down big, excuse me, or them start out slow, missing a lot of shots, or not playing defense. Because we saw earlier last month when the Knicks played the Pacers at the Garden, they didn't play any defense in that game, and they gave up 137 points in an overtime loss. So that has to change today. They cannot afford to let the Pacers get hot, let them get confident. You can't let that happen. You got to just punch them in the mouth and blow them out. Really, I mean, if they lose not lose, if they win in a close game, I'm not going to be like upset because at the end of the day, a win is a win. But I'll be a little annoyed because I want to see them get like a dominant win over a bad team. At the end of the day, the bad teams, they're not going to play the bad teams in the playoffs, so maybe to some it doesn't really matter. But I just want to see them have a very strong game all around against a team that they should take care of business against. I don't want to see them struggle against a team that is nearly 40 games under 500 and is well out of the playoff picture. In fact, I'm pretty sure the Pacers are already eliminated from playoff contention. So, with that being said, this should be a very easy game for the Knicks, even albeit without Brunson. I think they should still win by 15 plus. I believe they're actually 15.5 point favorites tonight, even with Brunson doubtful for this game. So they should still be able to dominate. They have more than enough talent to win this game tonight without Jalen Brunson, and they really have enough to win without Mitchell Robinson as well if he ends up not playing due to that back tightness that I mentioned at the start of the stream. So that's really kind of the basis for tonight. Some of the keys that I really want to break down real quick is I mentioned the strong starts, but I also want to see I want to see how they look without Brunson. Like I want to see how Alvarado in particular can play um with probably more minutes tonight because we know he's kind of been up and down a little bit, especially offensively, but what I've noticed is that he usually plays a lot better and looks a lot more comfortable when he's getting more minutes. When he's playing like 8 or 9 minutes, or he's not playing a ton of minutes, or he's kind of just playing in spurts, you don't really feel his offensive impact. He's not really getting anything going. You can't get into a rhythm. Tonight, I expect him to have a longer leash with Brunson out, so I expect him to be playing probably north of 20, maybe even 25 minutes. If he gets to start, maybe he even plays 30 minutes. So, with that being said, I want to see how he looks. I want to see if he can, figure things out, get into a rhythm, and become an impactful piece. Now, again, I'm okay if they start Tyler Kolek tonight because of, the stuff I outlined before with how Kolek meshes with the starters and whatnot. But if Alvarado starts, that's not like a bad thing either. Alvarado is, a veteran. He's been around for a while now, and he's started a bunch of games in his career, so it wouldn't be outlandish if he did. If in fact I expect it to be Alvarado tonight, but we shall see what happens with that. I'm curious to see how he looks. I'm curious to see how the bench looks because we're gonna need a lot from the bench tonight, especially Jordan Clarkson, who's been hooping lately. Jordan Clarkson has been great. He, scored 14 points against Golden State. It really was a big reason why they were able to come back down 21 and beat Golden State because Jordan Clarkson provided an impact. And I think Jordan Clarkson is honestly playing his way back into the rotation. That makes me really happy. I'm happy for him. Like I mentioned yesterday, handled the benching like a pro, always stayed ready, and he's back to being the microwave scorer that we needed him to be. He's back to making a lot of shots. Defense still isn't the best, but at least he's hustling. At least he's giving an effort. We saw with the offensive rebounds against Utah, very impactful on that side. So I'm excited to see what the bench can do. I think this will be a very big game for those guys, especially. But yeah, I'm going to turn it over to the Instagram and see what comments have been left to kind of, chat with you guys and see what you guys have been saying as I've been going on this little monologue for the first 10 minutes or so here on this stream. So someone asked what happened to Brunson. Nothing happened to Brunson. They're just managing his ankle. They do this every year. He obviously had that ankle injury way back in November, and they've rested him a couple times this year. I see no issue with it. He's not hurt or anything. It's not. They say he also has a neck strain, but I don't think it's like a serious injury. I would imagine if this was a playoff game, he'd probably be playing. But since it's a game against the tanking Pacers, they figured that this would be a good opportunity to rest him. So I'm okay with it. Somebody said, "What's good, fam? What up, man? I hope you're having a great day, and I hope everyone's enjoying their St. Patrick's Day if you guys, in fact, celebrate that. It's a nice, lovely Tuesday and some Knicks basketball tonight. WBC final is also tonight if there's any baseball fans here. So, a lot of sporting events coming around today, and of course, March Madness later on this week. So, a lot of fun activities this week, definitely. Someone said, "I love the Knicks." Yes, I love the Knicks too. We are all great big Knicks fans here. We love this team. Someone else said, "What's good, bro? What's good, man? I hope you're having a good day." Someone asked, "Do I agree with resting Brunson?" Yes, I do agree with resting Brunson. I do think this was again, as I just mentioned, this is a good opportunity to rest him. The Pacers are really bad. They're missing a lot of guys themselves. They're going to be sitting a lot of guys probably. I don't know if all those guys I listed before, and I'll pull it back up again here for you guys. Just give me 1 second to get this overlay off the screen. There we go. I'll pull it back up. This is if you guys are able to read it. I know on the Instagram it looks a little skinny, so I apologize if it's tough to read, but basically like their entire rotation is questionable or doubtful. We have some, obviously they're going to be without Tyrese Halliburton and Johnny Furphy. Those two guys have season-ending injuries, but when you look at the rest of the team, I mean, again, Nemhard, Neesmith, Toppin, Zubats, McConnell, Shepard, all questionable, and Pascal Siakam is doubtful. So Pascal Siakam probably isn't going to suit up tonight. So with all that being said, this is the opportunity to rest Brunson because also the Knicks do not play again until Friday after tonight, and they play Brooklyn on Friday. So that's another light game. So maybe Maybe they rest some other guys on Friday to give them a little bit more, a chance to recoup and kind of bounce back a little bit from their injuries. I don't really know what their plan is with that, but I imagine at this point in the season and with the light schedule, we're going to start seeing a few more guys sitting some games, just resting some games, managing some injuries. Because at this point, the priority is to stay healthy in time for the postseason, because you don't want to be in another situation like 2024 where you were missing a bunch of key guys during the playoffs and you ran out of able bodies to get past Indiana in the second round. We don't want to end up in that situation again. We want to have a fully healthy playoff run like we did last year, where we made it to the Eastern Conference Finals with the entire rotation basically being healthy. So, with that being said, I'm okay with resting Brunson. I'm perfectly fine with that. I think this is the good opportunity to do that. I have no issue with it at all, honestly. Someone asked if has Brunson been officially ruled out. No, he hasn't been officially ruled out. He's still doubtful right now, but considering that he's doubtful and that was what he was downgraded to earlier today, I imagine he's not going to play because he was questionable yesterday, and then this morning they downgraded him to doubtful. So they probably went into yesterday when they filled up that injury report. They probably had a good feeling that he wasn't going to end up playing. Let's see what else is you guys are talking about. Someone asked, why did Jordan Clarkson get benched in the first place? I actually kind of understood why it happened in the first place, because the defense was rough from Clarkson. He wasn't playing any defense, and his scoring had cooled off. He was shooting. There was like a good like 7 game stretch after the NBA Cup where he was shooting like 30% from the field and like 19% from three. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but it was not pretty. He wasn't scoring and he wasn't defending either. So he was pretty much a net negative. So I understood why it happened. And I mean, when you look at it, they benched Clarkson and then they ripped off 8 straight wins. So do I think it's correlated? Partially yes, partially no. I do think maybe the timing just worked out, but I think putting him back in the rotation right now at a time where you need more offense is a smart move. And I do think it also will allow some other guys such as Brunson to be able to rest a little bit, because now you can I don't want to say the word rely on Clarkson, because you're not going to ask Clarkson to score 30 points. No, but you can at least expect Clarkson to continue to provide some creation on the ball and create his own looks. So I think this is a good opportunity for Clarkson. I think he's playing his way back into the rotation. Will he be in the playoff rotation? That's to be determined. I think that largely depends on Deuce McBride's health, because the playoffs, the rotation is definitely going to shorten. Maybe Mohamed Diawara doesn't even see playoff minutes, even though I do think he should see some playoff minutes. So we'll see what happens with that as far as playoffs go. But I think down this stretch of the season, they're going to need Clarkson a lot to rest some guys while they rest some guys, while guys get healthy. Need more offense. So this I have no issue with how the Clarkson situation has been handled. I understand some fans didn't want to see Clarkson get benched at all in the beginning, but I had no issue with it at the time. I really didn't. Clarkson wasn't playing well, and that was kind of just the truth. Now he's back. Now he's back in though, and he's playing well. So you take it day by day and just see how things go. It's never always straight line. Let's see what else you people are saying. Looking at the Instagram comments, of course, if you guys are watching this on Twitter or YouTube, feel free to also leave a comment. I would absolutely love for you guys to do that, because I love talking with you guys about Knicks stuff and just chatting and having a good time. It's a nice Tuesday where I'm at. It's pretty cold, but I don't know where you guys are at. So, going back to the Instagram comments though, let's see. Someone said the Knicks need to start how they did against the Jazz in the Garden a couple months ago. That would be nice if they could start the game off 23-0, because that was a huge game when they blew out the Jazz by like 40 at the Garden, and that was back in like November. They started that game off 23-0. That game was over pretty much before the first time out. Someone said Kolek should get some playing time, and I think he will get playing time tonight. I do expect Kolek to play a little bit tonight. I would be very shocked if Kolek doesn't play at all. I think if he's not going to start, I think he'll be the backup point guard, especially if Brunson in fact doesn't play, which I expect him not to play. I think a lot of you guys at this point would also expect Brunson to not be playing. I would be shocked if Brunson suits up tonight. I don't think he should suit up tonight. I think this is a good opportunity for him to sit and to get some rest and stay healthy. So no real reason for Jalen Brunson to play in this game. This is an opportunity for the other guys to get going because that's the most important thing right now. The most important thing, especially, is to get Mikal going. I think Mikal Bridges especially needs to figure things out. We know he's been really struggling lately. As I mentioned in yesterday's stream, he's averaging 6 points over his last 5 games and shooting like under 30%. It's been very ugly for him. He's in no rhythm whatsoever. His minutes are decreasing. He played only 21 minutes against Golden State. And keep in mind, that game was a nail biter. So you would expect Bridges to be playing in that game down the stretch, but he was not. In fact, Landry Shamet was playing over him in crunch time, and Landry Shamet played more minutes than him. Landry Shamet played 27 minutes. Jordan Clarkson played 22 minutes. So unless Mikal figures things out, it looks like he's starting to kind of fall out of the rotation. And that leaves me with kind of a question for you guys. How would you guys feel if they benched Mikal for a game? Because I've seen this conversation be brought up a little bit, and the way I see it, I don't think they're gonna bench Mikal just because of that Iron Man streak, but maybe there'll be some sort of contingency or some sort of not contingency, but some sort of agreement in place that you got to figure things out, or we're gonna need to sit you for a game to get your head right. Because at the end of the day, winning a championship is more important than that Iron Man streak. It's more important. And while I do commend Mikal for playing all these games and always being healthy, because that's a great thing. That's always a plus. They always say the best ability is availability, and that's true. It is true. That's the best ability that any player could have. So I respect Mikal Bridges a lot for that, for playing all these games and always being ready, always playing and always being available. And for what it's worth, playing that many games in a row and being a overall high level player. This isn't like a bench player we're looking at. This is a guy who's a starter, a when he's at his best, a fringe all-star, but he's not at his best right now. He's not even close to that. So when we look at what he's doing right now, we wonder if maybe he needs to sit a game just to kind of get his head right, give his body a rest, and you know lock in a little bit. Because again, we're trying to win a title. We're not trying to just make the playoffs. We're not trying to have this Iron Man streak be the only accomplishment that we have. No, we want to win a title. We want to go far this year, and the way Mikal Bridges plays will largely be dependent on that. If Mikal Bridges is at his best, then they can go far. If Mikal Bridges is what he is right now, the Knicks can't go far. So they need him to be at his best. So, if you guys, what do you guys think about that though? Do you think Mikal should sit a game? I personally think maybe he should sit a game. I'm at that point where I'm okay if they break that Iron Man streak. I know maybe for Mikal that wouldn't be great. And I know yesterday I mentioned that if they do it, you kind of risk breaking some camaraderie a little bit between players and coach, because then they'll be like, "Oh, you broke Mikal's Iron Man streak, this, that, third." The players need to be bought in though a little bit more, and I think the players need to kind of see that the Iron Man streak is not exactly the priority. We're not here to celebrate participation. We're here to celebrate, hopefully celebrate a championship. So I personally think that they should maybe sit him, but if they don't sit him, it is what it is. I'm not gonna be like, oh, they need to sit him. No, if they don't want to sit him, fine, but his minutes should definitely go down until he starts playing better. And I think what's been happening lately with his minutes is the right call. He's just not providing enough impact long enough to justify playing close to 30 minutes a night. He's not, you know? So I'm going to take a look at the comments though and see what you guys have said about what I just said. Someone said, weird question, but do you expect him to at least be on the bench for the game supporting his guys? Are you asking about Brunson there for that one, or is that about Mikal? Someone said, I think Mikal needs a game off. Yeah, I think so too. Someone said, bring him back to reality. Yeah, I mean, again, Mikal, could get back going if he sits a game, but at the same time, maybe sitting him won't do anything. There is a pro and a con to that. So you have to wonder if anything will actually result in a change in the way he plays if he ends up sitting. And the person from the other question I asked was talking about Brunson. Yeah, he'll be on the bench. If he's not going to play, he'll be on the bench. Yeah, he'll be on the bench. There's no reason he wouldn't. The game's at the Garden. They're at home, and it's not like he's like sick If he was sick, then he wouldn't be, around the guys obviously, but he's just resting. He'll be on the bench. He'll be on the bench in street clothes, cheering on his guys, and hopefully cheering on like the Knicks winning by 20. Someone said our roster is getting old. I mean, they're not the oldest roster in the league. They're not Clippers old, but they're not young either. They're kind of middle of the pack. So I mean, I get what you mean, but I think they have more than just like this year to get something done though. They have a window. It's not going to just be only this year, but this would be the best year for something to happen because the East is weaker than what it will be next year when the Pacers probably land a top 3 pick, and if the Pacers end up with the Pacers might end up with a top 4 pick, and that means that they'll land one of Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonta, Cameron Boozer, or Caleb Wilson. So, with that being said, that's you're adding a pretty core piece right there to a team that was just in the NBA Finals last year. So that makes a team that kind of tanked this season away so much better. And of course, it's not guaranteed that they end up with a top 4 pick, but granted that they have the worst record in the league, they're almost certain to end up with a pick that high. So we'll just see what happens, but you're looking at a loaded draft class, and a lot of teams that have been tanking. The Utah Jazz tanked this year as well. The Washington Wizards, who just brought in Trey Young and Anthony Davis, are tanking this year as well, and they're going to end up with a high pick. So now you're possibly looking at a Wizards team that could have a starting five of, for example, let's just throw out a number. Let's say they get like I don't know the second or third pick, and they end up with Cameron Boozer. Then you see them have Trey Young, Cameron Boozer, Anthony Davis, Alex Sarr, or even if it's not Cameron Boozer, if it's AJ DeBonsa or Darren Peterson, same thing. Don't matter. Like you're looking at them adding a premier draft talent along with what they just added. So the East is going to get tougher next year, and that's not even including the teams that are competitive right now in the East, such as the Cavaliers, the Boston Celtics, Detroit Pistons, of course, and even the Charlotte Hornets are on the uptrend as well. So when you see teams like that, and you know that these other teams are going to start playing really well, then you know you really gotta see that this is the opportunity for the Knicks to do something. Someone said, I think the Knicks can do good today without the captain, although Brunson's great. The Knicks always can't rely on him. Yeah, the Knicks should have no problem winning tonight's game by double digits. They really should not. The Pacers are not good. They're injured. They're depleted. They're, again, worst record in the NBA. The Knicks still have way more talent on the floor available tonight, even without Jalen Brunson, and even if Mitchell Robinson sits, then the Pacers will have. Of course, the Pacers are always going to play the Knicks tight, and they're always going to play them harder. So if the game is a little closer, I understand, but it should be still a convincing win for New York. They cannot end up blowing a 17-point lead, like they did the last time they played Indiana a couple nights ago. You gotta have a much stronger game, much stronger effort. Someone said we're home for a while, so we should win a lot. Yeah, in theory, we should. The Knicks are one of the best home teams in the NBA, so there should be no reason why they would have any issues. Although, again, sometimes they let their guard down, and other teams come into that garden and play so much better. Excuse me. I'm gonna take a look at the Twitter and YouTube to see if there's any comments left there. I don't see any there, so I will pivot back to the Instagram. Again, I just want to see a strong effort tonight. I don't want to see them let their guard down. I want to see them play at a high level and really get going. I need to see a all around effort from start to finish. I don't want to see them get going in the second half. I want to see them come out strong. Knicks have an easy schedule coming up. They got to take advantage of it. Yeah, absolutely. This is the easiest stretch that they will have all season long. So they must take advantage of that, and they must do their business, take care of business. I mean, like I said, they got the Pacers, they got the Nets a couple times, they got the Pelicans thrown in there. They got some really bad teams coming up. Like, I'm happy that they've won the last 3 games, but aesthetically, they've been very ugly. They have been very ugly games. And we know this Knicks team is way better than that. What do I think about Pacome Dadier? Is what somebody just asked. You know, Dadier has potential. I mean, he's a 20-year-old kid and he's a forward with a lot of he's got game to him. He just hasn't been able to put it all together. And that kind of stinks because we used the first round pick on him. I thought maybe he would mold into a solid player by now. I didn't think maybe he'd be playing serious minutes by now, but I thought maybe he would be um at least in the rotation or at least getting spot minutes, but Mohamed Diawara has like completely lapped him. And I think given that Mohamed Diawara was a late second round pick just a year ago, and he's already lapped Dadier in the rotation, concerns me. I seen Dadier's G League stuff, and I know Dadier is hooping in the G League whenever he's on assignment there, but it just can't translate to the NBA for some reason. Spilled some of my water, so that's lovely. Someone said the Pelicans are the most irrelevant team in the league right now. I mean, yeah, they got nothing going, and the Pelicans also have a weird obsession too with keeping a lot of their guys thinking that their team is like super good, even though they have like 22 wins on the season. So I mean, like they didn't trade any of their top guys, which kind of was baffling to me. I thought, obviously they traded Alvarado to us, but they didn't trade Sadiq Bey, who I thought was definitely going to get moved. They didn't trade Trey Murphy, who I thought possibly could have gotten moved, or even Herb Jones. Like that's a weird organization. I thought they would have definitely moved some of their guys. Someone said, "Don't think about the regular season too much. We're winning the chip this year. Trust." I really hope so. And I try not to overthink the regular season at all. I know the regular season and the playoffs are two completely different things, but I can't just like ignore what the results look like in the regular season because it can tell you a lot about what kind of team you are. So we'll just have to see. Someone said I think we should have drafted Ryan Dunn in that draft. Yeah, I wanted Ryan Dunn too. I really did. So I was a little disappointed that we didn't end up with him, and I was hoping Dadier would be something, but unfortunately, the first 2 years it just hasn't been working for him. I'm hoping if he's still around in year 3 that he can mold into something, but we shall see. What about Dink Pate in the G League? Should he come up? Right now, no. I think we're too far into the season to even consider that, but Dink Pate's a promising prospect. He was really good in summer league. He had a couple nice games, and obviously he was a former top prospect at one point. So he's got some game. I think that we're still a ways away before we even can consider anything remotely relevant as far as this current Knicks group, though, with Dink Pate. I think we still got some time before we even can have that real conversation about whether or not he needs to be playing. Well, the Pelicans don't own their first round picks. They have no business trading their guys away. No, I know. It's just again, they've been unwilling to move a lot of their guys for a while now. So I feel like that team's always going to be stuck in mud. That team has too much talent to be as bad as they are, but I don't know if they're really a title team. I think at their best, they're just a good playoff team when at their best, keyword at their best. But um, they're far from that right now, and they've also dealt with so many injuries over the years. So it's tough being. If there's any Pelicans fans, I feel bad for you guys. It's tough. I get it. It is rough. Somebody said we are top 5 in offense and defense the last 6 weeks. Only other teams doing that is Celtics and Spurs. We are good. Yeah, no, we are very overall in the past few months, I should say, we've been very good. It's just the optics of some of these games have been not the prettiest, and I think we can all agree on that. I think there's an agreement that while they have won a lot of games, and some of these games, yes, they've won in dominant fashion, such as over Boston and over San Antonio, the games that do matter. There's also been some games that have been ugly, such as the last 3 games against Utah, Indiana, and Golden State. Games that, quite frankly, should have never been close, and it took 2 double-digit point comebacks to beat Utah and Golden State, and then blowing the lead against the Indiana Pacers before having to kind of claw tooth and nail down the stretch to win that one. You wish that they handled business a little better. At the end of the day, I'm happy with the wins. Wins are wins. At the end of the day, it's just, you know, the playoffs are literally less than a month away, so I want to see better looking results. I don't want to just see them scrape away wins. I want to see them dominate. And I think it's fair to hold that kind of expectation to these guys because, again, this is supposed to be a team that's going to go for a championship this year. So I think the fact that we are holding them to this high of a level, high of a standard is reasonable. I don't think it's like some overreactionary stuff to harp on, the slow starts, even though they're winning games. I think what Mike Brown did in the press conference after the Golden State game was a perfect example of it. He knows his team needs to win a title. He knows that there's bigger expectations to this group than just being a good team. So when you go out down 21 to a Golden State team that basically has a bunch of G leaguers out there, that's unacceptable. It is flat out unacceptable. And I'm glad. Again, I'm glad they made the comeback and won the game, but I think the fact that they were even in that position to begin with against a team that bad on paper and that large of a talent gap is bad for a team that is supposed to be a title contender. So, yeah, we hold them to a really high standard for that reason because of the expectations that, obviously we place these expectations on them, but a lot of the media has as well. There are expectations with this team this year. This is no longer just, oh, the Knicks could be a very solid playoff team. No, this is the Knicks need to make the finals. You got a lot of people, including myself, saying that the minimum should be that they make the finals. So it's really that simple. Someone said we just need our bench to develop some more. Yeah, I agree. And he added on and said if we can mix and match in the playoffs with our depth, I like our chances coming out the East. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Knicks at their best again are a top team in the league. They are probably the favorite to come out of the East when they're playing at their best. I just want to see if they can handle the Detroit Pistons. That's the one team I really have my concerns about just because of the physicality. Something that Mike Brown emphasized after Golden State was that there seemed to be a lack of focus and a lack of physicality, aka a lack of effort. And you can't get away with that against Detroit, a team that plays with a lot of physicality. And you can't get away with that against Boston, a team that shoots a lot. So they need to just get going and stay in a rhythm, stay locked in, and good things will happen for this group. Somebody asked, should Mike Brown change up the lineups? Um, I talked about this yesterday briefly, and I'll talk about it again since you asked, but um I don't know at this point if a lineup change is going to change much, just because I mean we saw Landry Shamet started against Utah when Josh Hart was out, and they still had the same issue of starting off the game really slow. So maybe he's not the solution. Maybe Josh Hart isn't the biggest issue. Maybe it's McHale for the way he's been struggling lately. Maybe it's somebody else, but whatever it is, there's clearly something that doesn't click with that starting five, and whether or not he should change the lineups, I mean there's a pro and a con to it. The pro is that you can change up the lineup and just play better. But the con is that if you change up the lineup now with less than a month into the playoffs, you're giving them less than a month to really kind of gel as a starting unit together, as a unit expected to play more minutes together, and that's a risky run. And I mean, credit to Mike Brown, he left the door open to that being a possibility after the Golden State game. And um, while I don't think it's going to happen, I can't rule it out. And do I think it should happen? I thought if they were going to make a lineup change, it should have happened weeks ago. So the fact that it hasn't happened makes me wonder if it's too late now to make such a change. Because, weeks ago we were still a while away from the playoffs, so you could have, used that time to really um, build that kind of cohesion with that unit. Because we saw in the playoffs last year, Mitchell Robinson came into the starting five for Josh Hart halfway through the Eastern Conference Finals. And while they ended up winning two more games, after making that change, you felt like if they would have tried that lineup sooner in the regular, or if they would have tried it more in the regular season, that maybe they could have started that unit in the ECF and maybe they could have won the ECF. So obviously it's a bunch of what ifs. You can't just, assume a certain outcome is going to change based on, those kind of variables, but it's just stuff to wonder, and it's valid to bring it up and highlight it. Someone asked, who do we think is filling in for Jalen Brunson tonight? Tonight would be a tough test. Hope they step up. I talked about in the beginning. I expect Alvarado and Kolek to kind of just move up the depth chart. Alvarado will probably start, but I would not be upset if Tyler Kolek started. I think Tyler Kolek's cohesion with the starters and the fact that Alvarado kind of is used as a spark plug a little bit off the bench, kind of that energizer, I think if they start Kolek, it would allow Alvarado to maintain that role and Kolek also to get more burn and also kind of just get the other guys going. Kolek is a very good playmaker, moves the ball really well, and I think he would be able to really help. I think he'd be really able to help in a lot of different ways. Someone said it's like they flip a coin before the game, come back from 20 plus or win from the start. Yeah, you really never know with this team anymore. It's almost like they try to go down by big, kind of give the other teams a head start. And I mean, hey, they win a lot of these games, so it is what it is. But I think a lot of us would much rather that second option of winning from the start. Someone said regarding the Pistons, figure out Cade, stop Cade, to defeat the Pistons. He is their offense. They fall apart when he's guarded effectively. Yeah, the problem is we couldn't figure out Cade. We threw pretty much every body at him the last time we played him when Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart were out, and Cade still walked out of the garden with 42. So that's tough. Cade Cunningham is one of the top players in the league, so not an easy task at all. Someone said we need a better small forward or power forward. I'm sure they'll look for more wing depth in the offseason. I think we're at a point now where we can't really um we there's not much else they can really do. I mean, they added Jeremy Sohan and they don't even play him. So I do see a comment here on from the YouTube, so I'm going to get this overlay off the screen for a second so I can pull up the comment. This person, he said, I think the starting unit just needs to come out with more urgency. Absolutely. I agree. I think if the starting unit actually played with a little more energy and more pace, they'd play better. And I think if Josh Hart was willing to shoot the ball more, they'd play better. I think if Mikal Bridges was able to knock down more shots, they'd play better. I think there's a lot of different factors that go into the starting five struggles. But I absolutely think the starting unit needs to be more urgent. More urgent. I think they definitely need to play like with a little more intensity. I think that's a very good point. I'm gonna get this off the screen and pull up the and get the overlay back on the screen for those watching on YouTube and Twitter. I'm going to go back to the Instagram for a brief moment, check out more comments there. Someone said bench Bridges, forget his contract. Yeah, I mean, play wise, he's not deserving of still starting, but um, I don't think they're going to end up doing anything about it. I think he's just going to continue to start, and they're just going to have to hope that he figures it out. I think the only thing that may change is that his minutes will go down. He'll play less minutes. They wait until they're losing by 20 to play with intensity. I know. And that's what frustrates me because last game against Golden State, they fell down behind 21 to the Chat GBT Warriors. And they ended up, then deciding, okay, now they're going to try. Why couldn't they do that in the first quarter? Why couldn't they start the game out like that? Why put yourself in an unnecessary hole? That's my thinking. I don't know why they do that. I know they're not purposely doing that, but why? I just don't understand why there's a seemingly lack of effort on the floor at the start of games versus the end of games when they could easily play with that same level of intensity at the start and then, take a back seat in the fourth quarter when you're up by 30 plus and you can play the bench warmers. So, I don't know. Someone asked, when Deuce comes back, does he start or take that first off the bench? Good question. And I think it depends really just exactly how he's feeling, what his health looks like, if he's going to be fully back in rhythm or if he's going to be still kind of rusty. Um, I expect that he'll probably come off the bench just because he didn't really have an opportunity to log up some starts before the end of the season. I think this would have been the chance to throw him into the starting five. I think this would have been a chance for that, but he's injured, so it doesn't open up that door for him, unfortunately. So we'll have to just see. I think it really just depends on how he's feeling health wise. Someone asked if when Deuce does come back, the same person asked when Deuce does come back, does that mean less minutes for Alvarado or Shamit? Good question. Good question. That's a tough one for me to answer, honestly, because both guys are impactful. You don't want to sit Alvarado because you need his playmaking, you need his ball handling, you need his defensive intensity, but you don't want to sit Shamit because you need his shooting and you need his defensive intensity. That's a tough one. Someone's gonna have to bite the bullet. Um, maybe maybe that means less minutes for Bridges, honestly, or less minutes for Hart. I think one of those starters will lose minutes when Deuce comes back, but who knows? That's a good question. That is something that we'll have to really think about um as Deuce's return becomes closer. Obviously, he's still a ways away right now, so it's not something we have to worry about right this second, but it's definitely something we're gonna have to think about when the playoffs come around. So, good question. Someone said to be a great team, you have to be able to win without your star player. Yep, simple as that. Lots of good teams win games without the star player. Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have basically not been fully healthy all season long, and they're still the best team in the NBA. So, someone said if Kolek has any hopes of earning some minutes back tonight, would be the time to make it happen if given the opportunity. Yep, and I think Kolek has shown in the playing times he's gotten since being out of the rotation that he can still play. And that's one thing I can credit Mike Brown for. He keeps his guys ready. You know, he makes sure his guys are always staying ready and that it's a stay ready environment. We saw Mohamed Diawara had a couple games where he was out of the rotation when we first brought in Soham, and then he came back into the rotation and went kind of just kept going where he left off. So I'm encouraged by that, and I hope Kolek can do the same thing tonight if he in fact does play. I can't just assume he's going to play, but I would expect him to play if Jalen Brunson in fact doesn't sit. See, I'm looking through other comments on the Instagram right now. I've missed a handful of comments. If I didn't get to yours, I do apologize. It's just I can't get to everybody just because there's a good amount of people tuning in, but I will try to get to as many of them as I can. Someone said they gotta stop leaving these dubs chance in the second half to come back. Coming out lethargic is not going to serve them in the post win or not. Yeah, in the postseason, it's again, you're not going to get away with starting games off slow. You're not. You have to start games out strong. You have to play with a lot of intensity. You gotta inflict fear into your opponents, and you're not going to be able to do that if you allow yourself to go down by 20. Not saying they do that every game. It's just it feels too often now the Knicks are starting these games off really, really slow when we know they can play so much better than that. We know they're a lot better than that on both ends of the floor. We see at their best, they're literally a top 5 offense and defense this season. But at their best, they're arguably number 1 in both. So they can be the best team in the league if they want to. They just get really complacent sometimes. That's something I've noticed a lot with this team. Someone said I would love a lineup of Brunson, Deuce, McHale, OG, and Cat. Yeah, that would be a great lineup. That's a 5-out lineup right there. A lot of spacing, a lot of aggressive shooting. I think that would also help Mikal Bridges kind of get going a little bit too with the added spacing. So I would like to see that. I don't know if they're going to end up doing it in the playoffs only because it depends when McBride comes back, if he comes back, and how he's feeling, if he's in rhythm or not. Someone said Deuce's defense, athleticism, and spot up shooting is definitely missed. Absolutely. His point of attack defense, especially, I think, is the biggest thing we're missing right now. Because I imagining me picturing him and Jose Alvarado in the backcourt off the bench, giving opposing guards nightmares, bro. I really wish we could have seen that now. I don't know, hoping we can see it in the playoffs, but we're definitely missing that stuff. The shooting, of course, as well. He's shooting well above 40% from three this year, but I think the biggest part of Deuce's game we're missing right now is that point of attack defense. We're really missing that. And credit to Landry Shamet though, because he's done a very solid job at bringing some intensity on the defensive side and really making an impact there. You know, Shamet wasn't exactly known as some lockdown defender before this year, so I credit him a lot for kind of growing on that end of the floor. Just going through more comments. Let's see. Someone said, I'm glad we got Mitch rolling during the regular season. His playoff stats this year are going to be astronomical. I'm really excited to see what Mitchell Robinson does in the playoffs. I think when Mitchell Robinson honestly proved me wrong this season, and I will admit that. I'll be the first one to admit that on here because, I said in the summer that they should consider looking to move Mitchell Robinson. I had been pretty firm about that. I even said right before the season began that I was unsure if Mitchell Robinson was still going to be a Knick past the deadline. He's proved me wrong. He stayed healthy this year, and when he's played, he's been extremely impactful. I think they need to keep him around. My opinion on it has totally flipped than what it was back in August or September. My opinion's completely flipped. I think Mitchell Robinson needs to stay as a Knick past this year because he is gonna be an unrestricted free agent, and my fear is that there's gonna be a different team out there who's gonna overpay for him, and we're gonna lose him in a similar way that we lost Isaiah Hartenstein. So whatever happens, happens with that. But um, my opinion on Mitch has definitely changed. Some you said Mitch heard what I said, so technically I'm the reason. Yeah, I honestly I hope Mitch heard me. I hope Mitchell Robinson heard exactly what I said about him in the offseason. I never said the guy was trash. I just said the guy could never stay healthy, and that was a big reason why I wanted them to trade him. I was wrong. I was completely wrong. He stayed healthy this year and he's made such a huge impact. We've probably won so many games strictly because of him. So Mitch, if you somehow are seeing this, or if somebody sends it to you, my bad, bro. My bad. Fairs, Mitch. Now, please say more about the bench. Yeah, maybe I need to. Maybe that's the key. Maybe I need to talk bad about every player for them to get going. Although it hasn't worked with Mikhail lately, so maybe it doesn't work. And again, I would never. I don't ever make any criticisms personal. I of course keep it strictly basketball. These are real human beings who see all of our stuff. So um, any criticism stays basketball. Someone asked if I heard about the two new NBA teams and the expansion stuff. Yes, I did, in fact, hear about that. And that's something that we won't have to worry about right now. But obviously, in about 2 to 3 years, we will have to worry about that. And it could impact the young cores you just pointed out. So I'm not going to think about it too much right now just because we don't know what the state of this team is going to look like at the time the expansion draft comes around. Maybe the Knicks are an established title contender, or maybe the Knicks are in a rebuilding phase. We won't know. We can't predict what's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years, so we'll take it day by day for now. But it's definitely something that we will be at least keeping in the back of our heads until that time comes. I'm gonna take a look back on Twitter and YouTube to see if there's any more comments. I don't see any extra comments there, so I'm gonna go back to the Instagram. I'll answer a couple more questions, and then at 3 o'clock, I'm going to wrap this stream up. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying we need to rebuild right now. No, I'm just saying in a couple years, we don't know what the outlook's going to look like. Maybe things are different by then. We don't know. Just talking about expansion draft though. I'm not right now. No, they're in no position to rebuild right now. They're still very much building a team that's trying to win a title. So we don't need to even be thinking about rebuilds right now or anything like that. I'm scared to lose Jalen Brunson when he gets old, is what somebody said. Um, yeah. Well, at the same time, though, I don't think the Knicks are going to let Jalen Brunson wear another uniform. I would be very, very surprised if Jalen Brunson wears a different uniform. I think the only way Jalen Brunson wears a different uniform is if it's like in a similar way that like Patrick Ewing went to the Magic or something at the very end of his career, final year of his career, or like Tony Parker to the Hornets or something like that. I think that's like the only way Jalen Brunson wears a different uniform. He's already pretty much cemented himself as a Knicks legend, so I don't think they're going to let him just walk away. I think they will make sure that Jalen Brunson never plays for another team again as long as the team is competitive. I'm going to ask what my dog's name is. I have two dogs, Cooper and Bentley. Those are their two names. Someone said, our depth is not the issue. Our core needs to step up in a big way, or not a single team will have a fear plowing through us. Well said. They just the main guys need to really step up and get going. We know we have depth, but we need guys like Mikhail, OG, Cat to really get going and be in a rhythm. That's the key. Someone said it'll always be go Knicks, but Mikhail needs to be moved this offseason. Yeah, I think we're approaching that territory, unfortunately, that we might need to consider moving on from Mikhail. And it sucks because, the idea of Mikhail Bridges sounds really good because, as I said yesterday in our stream, 6'6" wing, 7-foot wingspan, guy's versatile, good finisher, good shooter, efficient. It just hasn't been clicking for him. We're not really getting enough, and I don't know if it's a fit thing. I don't know if it's a confidence thing, if it's a mental thing. I don't know anymore. I really don't. I don't have the answer. It's unfortunate. It's also unfortunate just because of obviously how much we gave up to get Mikhail. Not going to talk about it, but I'm going to bring it up. And of course, the contract. So, a lot of different factors. Only problem is I just really don't know who we can replace him with unless it's in a package deal for Giannis. So, we'll just have to see what happens. But his value is probably in the gutter right now. So, I don't know. Do I think Mikhail is doing enough defensively to make up for his offensive slump, or is it an all-around thing? No, I don't think Mikhail is doing enough defensively, and I'm not trying to be hard on the guy. I'm not. But if Mikhail was giving you like OG level defense, you can live with him struggling offensively. He isn't giving us that though. Mikhail is more not really a POA guy. He's more of like a free safety type guy on defense. Good in the passing lanes and stuff. But I don't think he's exactly giving you. I don't think he's giving you like astronomically more than like Shamit, for example, to make up for that slump. And I think when you're shooting that poorly and your defense isn't that mind blowing, when there's also a guy, as I just named in Shamit, who, granted, Shamit has been struggling offensively lately as well, but is more willing to put the ball up and has also been more impactful. That's why Mikhail's losing his minutes. So unless Mikhail goes back to the DPOY level guy that he was at the start of the season, I don't see a situation where he suddenly gets a bunch of more minutes. Just going through some comments. Someone said Mikhail needs to be benched. A lot of people have been saying Mikhail needs to be benched. I don't think they're going to end up benching him. I really just don't think they're going to end up doing it unless, of course, the struggles just continue to get worse and worse. I said this after the Lakers game that it can't get worse from here for Mikhail, but apparently it can. So I don't know anymore. I don't know. Someone said trade Mikhail for Devo. They're not going to get Dante DiVincenzo back at this point. And when that rumor first started circulating back in January, there were mocks of like the Knicks giving up like 4 players for Dante DiVincenzo, and I'm sorry, that's way too much. That's way too much to give up for a guy we already had. So, would I like Dante back? I mean, I think everybody here would love Dante back if it's that version of Dante from 2 seasons ago. But will it happen? No, I don't think it's gonna happen. Someone said I low key miss campaign off the bench. Yes and no. As much as campaign was a spark and an energizer, I will give him credit for that. He did kind of uplift the team a little bit. I don't miss his shot chucking. I don't miss that, and I don't miss the low IQ shots or the lack of passing. I don't miss that. I think we kind of have righty campaign with Jordan Clarkson, so um it's a give or take there. He wasn't bad for us. Campaign, he wasn't. It's just, he lost his spot in the rotation in the playoffs because he wasn't playing well. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's kind of one of those players where you keep him around for a year, gives you an impact, and you kind of just move on if you don't win a title with him. Someone said Giannis is hurt more often than not. I don't think that's the answer. I mean, yeah, the injuries are a concern, but again, this is Giannis's superstar level talent. If you're gonna make a move, um, for a star player, he's the obvious target, especially given that he already wants to come here. He's already made that clear. I know they could possibly go after like Kawhi Leonard if like if the NBA, excuse me, for whatever reason, avoids his contract with the Clippers because of that whole investigation. I know there's other players as well that they could pursue, but when you're trying to win a title, sometimes you got to make a move that can be risky in the end, and that's kind of what they did. 2 summers ago when they traded for Bridges and Towns. It's risky moves, but they felt that those 2 moves were um, the moves to get them over the top. And they did take a step last year forward. They ended up winning, not winning, but they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I guess in theory, the trades right now look good, but if they don't make the finals this year, or if they lose in the finals, I guess we'll look at it a little differently. So just have to see. Playoffs are still a month away, so got some time. I'll answer a couple more questions and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I know I said I'd do it at 3 o'clock, and now it is 3 o'clock, but I'll stick around for a couple more minutes because we got a decent amount of people tuning in today. Let's see. Some of these questions you guys have asked I've already answered, so I'm not gonna repeat them. Um, Someone said, "Sucks that McBride got hurt. I miss his play style, his energy, and lots of buckets." Yeah, I miss McBride a lot right now too, and I'm. It sucks that he isn't out there right now. I feel like we'd be looking a lot better if he was. A lot of the metrics a lot of the metrics suggest too that um McBride is like one of their most, if not their most impactful backcourt player, especially when he's meshing with the starters. So, you know, someone said McBride's going to do damage when he comes back. Lots of teams haven't played against him in a while. He can bring energy and go on a run where they're needed. Yeah, I'm hoping that happens. But also, the counter to that is that McBride might not be the exact same that he was before the injury, because just because he'll have such a short turnaround to really get into game shape for the postseason. So we'll have to see what happens with him. All right. Well, I don't think there's any other comments, and I do think this is a good spot for me to wrap up this stream. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. If you watch this on Twitter and YouTube, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I'll do these lives a lot more often. It seems like you guys do enjoy these. If you're watching this on Twitter and YouTube, you can follow my personal Twitter account. It's right there on the screen. If you're on my Twitter account, of course, make sure you leave a follow as well. If you guys are on Instagram, you can follow my Twitter at Dylan Becker ESM. And of course, you can follow Fireside Knicks on all of our social media platforms. We're on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, right here, Facebook, and YouTube, of course. I'll do these streams more often. Seems like you guys really like them. So be on the lookout for the next one. And I'll see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out. Let's go Knicks, and let's get a win tonight.